Good afternoon, my friends. I appreciate everyone joining us here. I was really excited about the conversation we had around tuition rates in my last sprint. I know you've heard from Kathy Petchel and Molly Hitchens since then, and I hear good things there. It's now June the 8th, and I hope that your summer is starting well. I hope that you're gearing up for your summer camps and are successful there. I hear really good things from our clients about enrollments for summer. That's exciting. I hope that you guys have made a solid plan for your tuition rates for fall. I'm hearing very aggressive strategies from clients who are getting basically no pushback at all, with much higher than usual increases. Instead of the typical 3 to 5%, we have a lot of people going to even 10 to 12%. So good time to catch up. If you feel the need for a catch up, go back and watch the last sprint. If you need some strategies on how to integrate higher than normal tuition rates, but pay attention to it. Your costs are going up tremendously. You're paying more for staff. You're paying more for supplies, you're paying more for gas. I don't know when or where this will end, but what I don't want is for you to get behind. Also, be mindful that there's still a lot of grant funding out there, so be sure you're putting the time and resource into finding as much grant money as possible. Also, try really hard not to become dependent operationally on that grant money. So don't use that in lieu of tuition rate increases. Use it for something special, tuck it away, do a new branding project, buy a new piece of playground equipment, do something with it that doesn't compromise your ability to move forward operationally. So a couple of quick reminders there that don't have anything to do with discounting. But discounting and tuition rates are brothers, and so we have to speak about those two together. So thank you for joining this important conversation about discounting. It's one of the things that scares me the most about this industry, and I'll talk more about that in just a minute. You, as always, have the ability to interact. We are finding that much to our delight, most of our we get a lot of contact from these sprints. Most of it comes later when people pick up the video and watch it. So we do appreciate those of you that join us live. I'd love your input. I'd love your thoughts. I'd like to know where you're headed for fall. It's okay to talk about tuition rates here, even though the main focus is discounting, because again, the two are critical in the way they play together in driving your revenue, which is then the driver of everything else that we do in our business and in our school. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is, why is discounting a hidden danger? And the main reason, and I have found this more and more prevalent over just the last 6 months, I think, that very often the way we record our tuition and our discounts doesn't fully give us the information that we need to make smart decisions about our discount policies. And here's what I mean by that. I'll give you an example. I have a company under contract to sell, should close basically any day now. And it's a large, sophisticated company. And toward the end of our process and the quality of earnings process, which is basically the audit of the books, it was discovered that they were giving staff discounts that no one knew about. Why did no one know about it? Because they weren't recording properly. So the proper way to record all of your revenue and all of your discounts is to record the full tuition rate amount as tuition, the full amount, no matter who it is, what it is. It could be a staff child. It could be the second child in the family. It could be that you give them an industry discount, but record tuition as your stated tuition amount. And then record the discount in a specific category. Is it a staff? Is it a subsidy discount because you can't or choose not to charge the difference between what the state pays and what your private pay rate is? Whatever it is, be sure to record the full tuition and then the full discount. So what was happening in this company was that they were only charging staff half, not at all unusual. It's kind of common practice. There's some little nuances there that we'll speak about in a minute. But instead of recording the full tuition and then discounting half, they just charged part-time tuition. So even though the child was there all day, it looked like there was a part-time child there. So that messes with so much of your decision-making. It messes with what discounts do I give and what is this costing me? Where is the industry headed with this type of discount? And can I do more in progressing my financial picture by playing around with a discount or two than a full-blown 12% tuition rate increase? Can I do a partial tuition rate increase and remove or reduce one of the discounts? So you need the full information. So be sure that whoever's doing your books, if it's you or someone else, records the full tuition and then the full discount. One of the reasons we made the decision to more framework into what it is today over the simple Excel spreadsheet that some of you guys have seen and worked with in the past is that it didn't give us the ability to really know what the effect of discounts are. And if you're in framework today and you don't have the data for how many children are being discounted at what amount, then it's also not going to give you the right information. And it really limits your ability to make decisions. So if framework is loaded correctly by class, how many students in that class get what discount and what is that discount, then framework will say to you, and this, it will separate for you by class, by category of discount, and show you where your opportunities are to try to reduce some discounts. And then you can play with that along with the what if for tuition rate. So use those two things together. You can go back and forth. You can actually do it on the same screen. You can play with discounting. Maybe you remove one. You hear me say this isn't common practice anymore, and you think maybe I could remove that one. So you have the ability to remove it and play with your tuition rate increase and see the financial impact on your revenue. Another thing that you might do is just eliminate a discount in certain age groups. And I'll give you some of those tips in just a minute. But the first thing to know is for you to have the information that you need to show you what the impact of each discount is in each age group and for each category. And then to use your framework system to help you make decisions. So that's the first thing. Be sure you have that first. So what are historic discounts? So here are some of, and I know there are more, and I'd love for you guys to weigh in if I've missed one that you give, but here are the historic discounts that the industry has used to attract people into their school. Now, I say what I just said very carefully because the intention of discounts is to attract people into your school for new enrollment. So if you're in a situation like a lot of people are right now, that you have wait lists, and a lot of you have wait lists because you don't have teachers, but still you have a wait list, now is the time to be more aggressive about getting your business practices, tuition rates, discounts, hours, really where they need to be for the future. So, and I'll give you some tips for graduating that in if you're in a situation where you just don't feel like you could compromise your current family My guess would be, because I hear this over and over across time and even more so today, that parents are so appreciative of the work that you're doing. You've been elevated in standing in the world, not just in the industry, in the world for what you're doing. And the tolerance for tuition rates is higher than ever before. And this is in most markets. So let me just say there are certain parent population groups where that's limited, and I'm certainly mindful of that. You need to know your parents. But in the big scope of early education, we're hearing a lot more respect, a lot more openness to higher tuition rates. So something to think about. You have a small window right now, and I urge you to take action this fall if you haven't already. So some historic discounts. The first one is that if a child doesn't come to the school, they don't pay. For some people, this is a week a year. For some people, this is 2 weeks a year. There are even models where, and some successful ones, I'll admit, there are models where children only pay for the days they attend. That one worries me, but there are models out there and they are successful. But days that families don't pay for started leaving the industry about 10 years ago. Now, as soon as I say that, I have some very high level providers that say, we still do that. We're pretty sure all of our competitors do that. You know, okay. I mean, you have to listen to what I'm saying and do what makes sense for your own school. I would suggest that if you have a wait list, if you're full, that this would be a really good move. So a good transition for this is we're eliminating vacation or free days. We really need to go up in tuition 12% to match rising costs, but we're going to go up 5% and we're going to remove this discount. So everyone's happy today. They've got a less than expected tuition rate increase. They probably will forget next summer when it's time to go on vacation. And you're going to live through a year of, oh, I forgot, I didn't know, don't want to pay you. But do it. It's better live through a year of that, because if you quantify, if you're not recording it correctly, if you're not charging the tuition, so some people would just not charge the tuition that week and they would never really know the impact of this discount. So charge the tuition, charge a vacation credit, and look at what that's costing you every year. And my guess would be eliminating that in a smaller tuition rate increase would be the way to go. If you're not 100% comfortable with that, and I would argue you should be, but I get kind of preachy here, then with all of these changes, you always have the ability to keep your current families where they are, call them legacy families, and make them special, and don't do it for new families coming in. So I really like that strategy anytime you're doing a change and you're very concerned about how your current families will react. Now, if you're not the director, your director always will have a hard time with tuition rate increases and policy changes that cost parents more money, because they are the ones with the main relationship and with they'll hear it, not necessarily you, but they will hear it. I like to bring them into the decision when possible with information about what that does for the school financially and what they and you can do with that extra funding. So that's a strategy to work on. The second main discount is to discount the children of your staff members. Now, in this hiring environment, I don't suggest you go backwards at all on this one. We need every strategy possible to hire the very best people. I will tell you some trends that had started in, so not quite as long as the vacation or free days, but 7 or 8 years at least. With the high cost of infant toddler care, and for most companies, infant toddler care is a loss leader. So usually you will lose money in those categories, but you have siblings and they stay with you. So most people will provide that care. But there had been a move away from discounting infants and toddlers for staff. So the rule of thumb has historically been free childcare for directors and half-price childcare for teachers. And with assistant directors, they could go either way. I see that about 50-50. Some people will discount them along with directors. Some people will discount them more with teachers. So that's just a choice you can make. But there had been a move away from discounting infants and toddlers and starting the discount when the child either turned 2 or was potty trained. The second move that started happening about the same time is to limit the number of children each staff member can have discounted, and that number is usually 2. So again, it's something to think about. I would definitely work on some of these other discounts before I would consider that one at all. I don't want to make your life more difficult with hiring. And I think any move you make backwards with staff would compromise that. So be careful about that one. I'm going to call it 5 years because I wanted to say 3, but we're almost in 3 years we're a little past 2 years in COVID, so not quite 3, but maybe 4 or 5 years ago, there was a move away from discounting multiple children in the same family. So rule of thumb there historically has been second children either at a 20% discount or both children at a 10% discount. Some people would cut that and it would be second child at a 10% discount, third child at a bigger discount. But there had been a move away from that in the last couple of years. And frankly, we have some clients who eliminated every single discount, and they did it very successfully. And I would be careful there. I mean, that makes me so happy for them because it means that they have more money to invest. And, if they eliminate staff discounts, they can put that money back into their staff and all of their staff, not just the ones with children. So that's the way some people think about that. But a move away from discounting multiple children in the same family. You might want to check your competition on this one. I will say that be sure who you're checking is true competition. Just because they operate in your market does not make them competition. If they're not as good as you, don't even consider their tuition rates or their discounts. You are probably the market leader. And as the market leader, you set the pace. You don't follow, you lead. And especially in these areas, it's time to lead. The fourth one I will talk about is that some people make the decision to give certain industries employees a discount. So some typical ones would be school teachers. IBM sits right next to you and you discount their employees. And I'm okay with this one, but I want to be sure that the industry is doing something for you. Are they giving promotional materials to their new employees? Are they allowing you to come in and do a parenting class? Do they bring people over for tours? If they're doing nothing, then those families would have come to you anyway. And a traditional discount for industry is 10%. And when I'm telling you that it's 70% full, I want you to put 15% on the bottom line, and that's the beginning of your financial health, then giving away 10% is a lot. So I would consider this one. Be sure that something special is happening for you. You can even ask, there's some great models of industries that will donate food or supplies or cut your grass or do some maintenance, or just be sure that you're getting something from the industry in exchange for this discount. The last one I will mention is that and this is state specific, in some states, you are not allowed to charge the difference. So for most providers, your stated rate is above what the subsidy will pay. That's not true everywhere. In some states have really kicked it up. And there's some places now where the subsidy rate is even higher than the stated rate. Or in some states, that's not allowed. So providers are keeping their private pay rate artificially low because they don't want to raise their rates. I don't even want to go there right now. That's a lot of craziness. But in a lot of states, you are not allowed to charge the difference between your stated rate and the subsidy rate. In some markets, some providers choose not to charge the difference, and mainly because their competitors don't charge the difference. And they know those families need all the support they can get. A potential strategy here might be to charge the difference and then allow parents to apply for a scholarship. So maybe you set aside a certain amount and you make a decision about need and you give a scholarship. Maybe you end up scholarshiping a lot of those families. But then you can also use that in your marketing campaign. We scholarship X dollars for families in need in 2022. And that's a great way to get the word out about all of the great things that you're doing. So those are the historic discounts and some of the strategies around them. So I mentioned some of these things, but let's sum up the strategies. And then I said a few more, I think, that I'll add on to this. So first of all, be sure that you're recording the discount properly. This is, to me, this is the coolest feature of Framework. So I'd love feedback on how you're using the tuition rate and the discounting feature to make some decisions, hopefully for fall. Consider phasing out some discounts that you've done historically. As I said, I really like that in combination with lower tuition rates, but explain this to families. Be sure your communication plan is really good. So to combine with other changes like we mentioned. And lastly, I will just say that I can't say enough that you're probably the market leader in your market. Don't compare yourself and make decisions based on others operating in the market who are not your true competition. They're not delivering what you're delivering. And for goodness sakes, if you have a wait list, you can make so many decisions around your financial picture. And that might not last forever. There's whispers of an economic recession on the way. We're starting some information around planning for that. So look out for that in the future. But just be sure that you're setting yourself up today while we have this window of opportunity. And that, again, as you get grant funds in to your school, that you're not becoming dependent on those. Use them as a short-term strategy if you need to. If you can't quite get tuition rates up fast enough to cover the rising staff wages, use some grant money for a year. You know, but you eventually have to correct that because the grant money is going to go away and you're not going to be able to cut people's pay, right? So be super careful about that as you use those funds. I'm going to give you guys just a minute to see if anyone has an input or a question. And if not, we will send you on your way. I think you guys have 3 sprints in a row. in a row. And that was because of my recent travel. So sorry that I canceled on you, but glad to be with you now. So I think you guys are good who are live with us. Thank you for joining. If you're connecting later and you have a question or comment, always put it in framework. We're watching, we're listening, we're responding, we're stepping up with information and new opportunities and new content. So keep us informed about what you need. Take care and be well, friends.